Imagine this, a brazen daylight robbery at one of the most famous museums on the entire planet. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, but this is the real story of a heist that absolutely shook the art world. So, let's get into exactly how they pulled it off.
Right? That's the big question on everyone's mind. I mean, the Louvre is supposed to be a fortress, this incredible symbol of cultural history. So how in the world did a team of thieves manage to pull off the impossible in less time than it takes to make your morning coffee?
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's the morning of October 19th, 2025. It looked just like any other day at the Louvre. You've got tourists pouring in, guards at their posts, and all the museum's priceless treasures were thought to be completely safe. Well, they were wrong. So just 30 minutes after the museum's doors open for the day, this kind of weird vehicle shows up on the side of the museum that faces the river sign. It was a furniture truck, you know, the kind with a mechanical lift for getting heavy stuff up to high floors. But this truck, it wasn't there to deliver furniture. It was the key to the whole operation. Inside that truck were 4 thieves, all dressed up in construction gear. 2 of them hop right onto the truck's mechanical lift, and it raises them straight up to a first-floor balcony. Now, this wasn't just any balcony. It was a direct shot into one of the Louvre's most incredible rooms, the Gallery of Apollo. And that's where they keep the French crown jewels. What happens next is it's a masterclass in sheer speed and audacity. These guys were not there to look around. They were on a serious clock, and every single second was critical. You know, the speed of this thing is what's just mind-blowing. From the second that truck parked to the moment the thieves were gone, the whole thing unfolded with breathtaking speed. In just 2 minutes, they'd used an industrial cutter to get through the thick gallery glass. By the 6-minute mark, they had the jewels in their hands. And 2 minutes after that, they were gone.
Just 8 minutes. That's all it took. 8 minutes to pull off a basically flawless robbery at what's supposed to be the most secure museum in the world. That incredible speed, it was all by design. It was meant to create total confusion and give them almost no chance of getting caught.
Now, once they were inside, they didn't use guns, which is interesting. Instead, they just brandished their power tools at the guards. That move triggered the museum's big general alarm system, and chaos just erupted. So while the guards were scrambling to get panicked tourists out of there, the thieves had the perfect distraction to get to work. Their whole plan was just ruthlessly efficient. They smashed open the display cases, grabbed 9 priceless items, and then went right back out through the hole they'd cut. Down on the street, their 2 accomplices were waiting on scooters, the perfect getaway vehicle for weaving through Paris traffic. They hopped on and just vanished. So when the dust finally settled and the chaos died down, the museum was left trying to figure out what was missing. And the scale of what they lost was just devastating. And not just in terms of money, but in what it meant for history. You see, the thieves knew exactly what they were after. They specifically targeted treasures from the 19th century, taking pieces that belonged to French royalty, like Empress Eugenie and Empress Marie-Louise. These weren't just shiny, valuable jewels. They were irreplaceable pieces of the nation's history. But here's a really strange twist. They grabbed 9 items, but they only got away with 8. In their hurry, they actually dropped the 170-year-old crown of Empress Eugenie. It was found on the road, pretty badly damaged from being shoved through that small hole in the glass and then dropped. A really clumsy mistake in what was, otherwise, a nearly flawless plan. And that little mistake points to the biggest mystery of this whole heist. In that very same gallery were some of the most famous diamonds on Earth, like the Regent diamond, worth over 50 million euros by itself. The thieves didn't even look at them. That kind of precision tells you this wasn't some random smash and grab. This was a heist to order. The Paris prosecutor's office really summed it up perfectly. They said, look, the financial value is huge, obviously, but that's not the real loss here. This was an attack on the nation's cultural heritage. The sheer audacity of the crime immediately brought up a very uncomfortable question. How could this have possibly happened? Well, the investigation would quickly uncover a whole series of pretty shocking security failures. And what they found? It's just unbelievable. In that particular wing of the museum, 1 out of every 3 rooms had no CCTV coverage at all. The exact balcony the thieves used was in a blind spot for the outside cameras. And, worst of all, a specific alarm right there on that balcony, which should have gone off the second they touched it, had been broken for days.
The fallout was, as you can imagine, immediate. The director of the Louvre went public, admitted to the security failures, and even offered to resign.
But in a show of support, the Ministry of Culture refused to accept it. They were basically signaling that they wanted to fix the problems, not just point fingers. Now, while the entire world was shocked by this 2025 heist, if you take a look back at the Louvre's long history, you'll see that this impossible break-in, well, it wasn't completely out of the blue. The museum actually has a surprising history of being a target. Of course, the most famous case was when the Mona Lisa was stolen way back in 1911 by an employee, but there were other big thefts in 1976 and 1998 too. The 2025 heist is really just the latest and maybe the most dramatic chapter in this long story. So, the police threw everything they had at this case. More than 100 investigators were assigned to it. And while the thieves were fast, they weren't ghosts. They left behind a ton of forensic evidence. Helmets, gloves, traces in the truck, which led to the collection of almost 150 different DNA samples. And all that evidence, it paid off. Just 6 days after the robbery, the police got a major breakthrough. A DNA sample matched a known criminal, and that led them to arrest 2 suspects. And here's the kicker. One of them already had a criminal record for gold theft, directly linking them to this kind of high-stakes crime.
So while the authorities have people in custody, the biggest question of all is still hanging out there. The jewels themselves, which were likely stolen for a specific private collector, have completely vanished. And we're all left to wonder, will these priceless pieces of French history ever be seen by the public again?